I'm interesting, to say the least. I like to think of myself. You remember the parable of the men that God gave the gifts to. He gave one five, one two, one one, and then he wanted them to, make them plentiful. And what are they doing with their gifts? Well, I like to think of myself as the man with the many gifts and the many talents. And throughout my career, it has been wonderful. I actually just had this revelation today, actually, um, where I'm so grateful because everything has become full circle in this season of my life. And all the things I've done have led to the moments that I'm in and the transition of life that I'm currently in. And it all makes so much sense. And of course, time and time again, we question God and we question what we're supposed to be doing. And is this it? And are you sure? And I don't know. And we have to get all the logistics and it has to make sense to us. One thing I tell my best friend all the time, though, is things that have to make sense to us, they aren't real because God is an all-knowing and all everything God. So the way he moves doesn't make sense. So when we try to make sense of his not make sense, we just cause ourselves more stress, anxiety, worry, and all the things that the word says that we shouldn't have. We then begin to take on those things. So ultimately, for the last decade, I've been a hair artist and hair colorist. I live in Maryland. So, woo, woo, although I do have family in Atlanta, my mother and my sister are in Atlanta, but I refuse to move there. So I'm a Maryland girl, PG County, born and bred. Um, like I said, for the last 10 years, I've been a hair artist and hair colorist. I've owned my own hair studio. And actually, December 26th, I retire from behind the chair completely. So that's why I say my life is in a very interesting transitional space. There's more for me, and God is tired of me telling him when I'm going to move. So he's moving me, and it's beautiful. I love it. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I wanted to just quickly, pray for us tonight. God, I thank you for this opportunity for us to come together within this community of women, helping one another, loving one another, fellowshipping with one another, and creating space for one another to love each other and to love you most importantly. God, use me as a vessel in this meeting tonight to say whatever it is you need to be said to the people that are listening. I thank you, God, for this opportunity. Amen. So I want to open up with Proverbs 4:20. It says, pay attention to my words and be willing to learn. Open your ears to my sayings. So I encourage all of us, no distractions, just focus in this moment. I love doing icebreakers. My background is in psychology. So I think it was Sydney who said she graduated today. Congratulations, girl. I graduate on Wednesday. So yay for us. Fall 2021 graduates. But I love icebreakers. My background is in psychology. So I'm always like trying to do icebreakers. So if everybody has something to write with really quickly, or if you can jot it down in your phone, if you're on the go or anything like that. The way this is going to work is I'm going to make 3 statements. And with each statement, I want you to write the very first thing that comes to mind for you. So do not think about your answer. Whatever pops up, that's what you write down. Y'all ready? Everybody ready? Okay. The first one. On a scale of 1 through 10, how would I rate this year? First thing. I see some of y'all looking sideways. First thing. 1 through 10, how would I rate this year? Second thing, what are 3 words that come to mind first to describe this year? And if you want, you can either write it down, put it in the chat. It's just up to you how transparent you like to be. 3 words describe this year. And then the last one, what is one thing that happened this year that I am most proud of? Just one. Ooh, I like stretched. That's a good word.
Are we supposed to put them in the chat or just
However
okay.
you want. I was also gonna ask if anybody wanted to come off and give their answers too. Come off mute and give their answers.
Okay.
So however you want to do it. And for those of you that do want to share, if you want to go ahead and quickly share your 3 things, you can come off mute and do so. I love these words. So I am a bit of like a word fanatic. I love words. So this is very exciting for me.
This is Tamara. So for this year, I'll say it's on a scale from 3 to 5. And one of those reasons, because I've lost so many family members, one being my brother-in-law. He was my sister. He and my sister were married 24 years. So that's like half her life. So the 2 words would be pain. It would be celebratory because I've had cousins who've given birth, gotten married, hence celebratory. And then 2, unexpected. Unexpected with my brother-in-law, and then also unexpected with the reorg that I went through at work. Doing something for 20 years is kind of a gut punch when you realize you have to change, but I wanted to change. I wanted that conflict of interest to be removed. And 3, the 2 things I'm proud of: stepping out and doing never thought I'd be selling magnetic liner and lashes. And also I hosted an event on Valentine's Day for single adult Christian women. It was virtual. And that's another passion. Encouraging.
That's exciting. Where was my invite? I need to be there.
I gotta wait for the December 20th to expand my reach.
I thank you so much for sharing, and I send love to you, throughout all that you've experienced this year with loss. Definitely. Anybody else want to share that hasn't already shared in the chat? Michelle, you want to share? I see your face.
I kind of do.
Come on.
Okay, so one of the words you said to pick 3 words, one of the words I picked was less. And I just want to talk about that because this year was a little less than I wanted. Like my twins were born, they were healthy. We were so fortunate. They were in the NICU for 6 weeks. So I'm, one of my words is gifts. I had major gifts. And unexpected, just we weren't expecting them to come 7 weeks early. But one of my words is less. This year was a little bit less. I started a Christian dating business and quit my engineering job, but this year was a little bit less than what I was hoping for in that. So I kind of wanted to share that just in case anyone else kind of thought that too. Maybe this year was just a little bit less. Grateful, but less.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm so glad you chose the word less, because we often see what as a tagline. Sometimes less is more. So the thing about it is, though in our minds, from our perspective, less can say, I wanted a little bit more. It was a little bit less. Great things happen, so I'm grateful. However, as much that I wanted to happen maybe did not. In the moments, though, I love to shift perspectives. So in the moments, though, when you think about it, less is most times more. In the word, what does God say for faith? Mustard seed. That's minuscule in size, but it creates so much in reproduction. So same thing, I really encourage you. I love the word and I thank you for sharing. And I really definitely encourage you and anyone else who has that perspective to look at less as being more, because you brought 2 lives into this world. Like, I could never, but you brought 2, and they're thriving and they're doing well. You're doing well. You look amazing. You're glowing. So that's exciting. So your business, like, it's so funny because you said less, but then like Ryan said about somebody earlier in the conversation, you said less, but then you listed like 12 things. So, so I can just imagine what your more looks like. You know what I mean? But I'm grateful for you for sharing that. And I thank you for sharing that because it's necessary for us, especially when we're planning and we're going through visions and goal setting and what it is that we want. We have to always keep in perspective, one, that sometimes less is more, but then 2, to whom much is given, much is required. So in this season of your life, less was probably the best for you, because had it been a little bit more, it could have become overwhelming, stressful, and then those negative feelings and things begin to arise, and then you want to break, and then it's, oh my gosh, it's so much on my plate, it's so much I got going on, you know what I mean? So definitely for anyone who is feeling like you want it more, sit in what that more could have been and what that would have looked like for you and how that would have even transitioned your moment that you're in even right now. You know what I mean? Some other words that I got from a lot of people was transition. And definitely that's one of my words also. This year was I was talking to my therapist 2 weeks ago, and I said to her, I said, this year has closed many chapters in my life, and it's almost overwhelming the emotions that I'm going through on a daily basis. Like, I don't know if I'm coming or going sometimes. And the emotions are all of them. So I said to her, I said, I'm experiencing all the adjectives at one time because it's good, it's bad, it's sad, it's happy. Retiring from a business that I've been a part of, that I've given my entire life to for the last decade of my life, that's a grieving process. You know what I mean? So, but it's a beautiful process. It's like a beautiful grieving process. And it's such an interesting thing. So I love the word transition because transition has definitely, that's been a thing. There was one other word that I really, really loved. Give me 1 second to scroll back up. Oh, it was Ryan stretched. How many of us, you can utilize the thumbs up or the reactions at the bottom of your Zoom screen, but how many of us have felt stretched this season, like this year? Yeah, for sure. Everybody thinks so. I think so too. In being stretched, it's important to understand and to take into account that it's necessary. The pruning is necessary. And as we prepare for the end of 2021, going into 2022, which is such a big deal, as we begin to prepare for this, I have more questions. You don't have to answer these ones right now. These questions I want you to just take with you and ponder on. And then maybe at the next meetup or the next time we can all get together, we can kind of discuss and talk about it. Y'all ready? I'm gonna put them in the chat, but I'm gonna ask them too. But I'm gonna ask them and then I'll put them in the chat after. The first question, and these aren't questions that you could just answer quickly because you really do have to, one, consider God in the answer, and then consider yourself and make sure that alignment is there between you and him. The first question, what is my purpose? Not your job title, not your woman title, not your mother title, not your wife title. What is your purpose? The next question, how will my contribution to this world impact others? And we can even tie that into the Proverbs 31 in regards to everyone else. What are you doing for other people? What is your impact? This is one of my favorite ones, this next one. How do I want to be remembered? Y'all might get mad at me for this one. You ready? What is keeping me from achieving optimum success? What is keeping me from achieving optimum success? Number 5, what are 2 strengths that I have? Just 2. Your strongest strengths. The last question. What are 4 weaknesses that I identify with? And yes, you are identifying more weakness than you are strength, and that is for purpose. So it's what is my purpose? How will my contribution to the world impact others? How do I want to be remembered? What is keeping me from achieving optimum success? What are 2 strengths I possess? And 4 weaknesses. In the part of my transition, I am in the education field. I am transitioning into becoming a full-time middle school teacher. And in education, we use acronyms for everything. So as we end this portion, I hope it brought you some light. I hope it brought you some love. But I would like to leave you with the acronym. And the acronym is breathe. Bring out the greatness inside of you. Remember your why, especially when it's tough. Embrace the current journey that you are on. Affirm your God and yourself daily. Take the risk. Others. To whom much is given, much is required. And evaluate quarterly to make sure that how you see yourself is how God desires you to be. I had so much fun. I'm done.
You do that again?
Again?
The breathe, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'll actually put it in the chat with the question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, wow, wow. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So yeah, could you put that in the chat, and then we'll have people share a little bit about each of those particular letters in the acronym. You mind doing that, Dave? Putting the acronym in the chat.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm actually just going to copy and paste it so it can all be in at the same time. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay, here's the acronym, and then the questions are coming right after.
Okay.
There we are.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah, so let's have some time to share a little bit about this. Like they mentioned, some of these in the 6 questions that she had may require a little bit more time. But I am curious, you said it's purposeful and why you did 4 weaknesses and then 2 strengths. Can you share with us a little bit about that purpose?
Absolutely. So the reason why we identify more weaknesses than strengths is because we tend to live in our weakness and we use it as a crutch to become our strengths. So when we can identify what those weaknesses are, being more than what the strengths are, we are then able to surpass them. We recognize them, we admit to them, and then we come up with a game plan to break them.
Oh, wow. So what does that usually look like, I guess, for you? I'm just going to like do a little post kind of question. If you guys also have any for Day as well, feel free to either put them in the chat and or shoot them to me or come off mute. But yeah, so what does that kind of look like for you? Like, can you kind of give us an example so we know how we can put that into practice?
Absolutely. I love to. So I would say that 4 of my weaknesses are I am a professional procrastinator. I, I tend to be, back up, preface. My business, my brand is gorgeous chaos. It's the beauty within the midst of. And that in itself is who I am. So that in itself is a weakness because I'm a beautifully wrapped ball of disorganization and confusion. So, and then on top of that, another weakness that I have is that I'm afraid to be fully successful. And then the last weakness I have is that if I had to make a choice, I would choose laying on the couch over cleaning up. The reason why these are so important is because when it comes to my strengths, my strongest strengths are that I'm amazing visionary. I can see very well, and I can see, you can tell me one sentence about one thing you want to do, and I can come up with a whole game plan for you and how to make it happen and how to achieve it. The problem with the weakness and how that relates is because I procrastinate. So even though I can do that and I can do it at a drop of a dime because I'm so gifted at it, had I not used my procrastination as such a crutch, had I not used essentially the lack of discipline as a crutch, I could impact and help so many people create for themselves. But instead, I rather watch Netflix. So that's how they essentially tie in, because when you're able to be honest with yourself and really admit where your faults lie, you can then create a game plan to turn those faults into strengths. So if I am laying on the couch instead of cleaning, what am I doing while I'm laying on the couch? Am I on my computer making an ad for somebody? Am I looking at YouTube about how to build something, about something motivational? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's one of those type of things where you have to, it's almost like in therapy where you have to understand where you come from to heal and move forward to where you're going.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have any other questions that come to mind? Feel free to come off mute or drop it in the chat.
I was just gonna say, I can totally relate to Dai what you were saying about the procrastination. Like, I am the queen of procrastination. But let me tell you how the Lord works though, because toward the middle of this year, I spun it and I said, my procrastination, I've earned my procrastination because it's rest. And the Holy Spirit was like, come back. Where are you going with this? So I totally can relate to that procrastination thing. And God has been really gracious with me. We had a speaker a few months ago that talked about, oh my gosh, I forget the phrase, but it's something fatigue, which is basically when you work so much that you get into this slump, and it's symptomatic of depression, but it's not depression. It's literally like your body and your mind just saying you're tired because you've been working. So I'm saying all of that to say I'm getting to the root of my procrastination. And I'm also similar to you in that I'm a visionary. So I see like big picture stuff and I'm working and it doesn't quite make sense, but I thrive off of the adrenaline that comes with procrastination. And so this year has been like the Lord really kind of unlayering the root of stuff and like helping me put the pieces together. So I really appreciate that you said that.
Absolutely the thing with me. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I procrastinate because I'm successful at it. Never have I had a moment where I procrastinated and waited to the last minute and it was not successful. So it's like, I'm gonna keep doing it because it works. My fix was broken. But then the thing is, I told my sister, I was like, but sometimes I get like this small voice in the back of my head that's like, stop playing with me. It's gonna be a moment when you're gonna try that and it's not gonna work. Get disciplined. Get disciplined. So I try, and it's the same exact thing like what you just said. We go through these moments where it's like tunnel vision focus, super disciplined, and then it's like, all right, I'm done.
Can I share something around that real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of made me think of, especially when I first started walking with the Lord. You know, when I was in high school and stuff, I confess, I hardly ever read any of the books, right? I did Cliff Notes. I made A's doing Cliff Notes, right? So who's going to buy a book? I mean, I stopped buying the books. You know, I was like, why even bother buy the book? You ain't going to read the book. You're going to do the Cliff Notes and you're going to make an A. So what the heck, right? So when I started walking with the Lord, you know, that was just a mindset. That was a way that I had learned to live and successfully, right? And the Lord kept saying, there are no Cliff Notes to walking with God. There just aren't any. And I really didn't get it at the beginning. So of course I spent years trying to find some, you know, I was always trying to find a shortcut. I like the shortest distance to how you get there. I'm an efficiency geek. So I'm like, if I can get it done in 10 minutes, we're going to do that, you know, because I don't want to spend 3 days working on something if I can find a 10-minute method. So I kept trying to do that. And I, you know, and I'd read about all these great men and women of God and I'd be, Lord, you know, I want to be like them. And he'd be like, except for the fact that there's no shortcut to walking with God. And so if you're going to get there, you're going to pay the same price that they paid. And I think I could honestly say that this year might be the first year that I really kind of understand and believe that. You know, where it's beginning to like sink in, like, girl, you just gonna have to do the work. You're just going to have to do the work. There really is no shortcut, because if by now you would have found it, you know.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that. And that's so real. I love that. Like, there is no shortcut with me. So you can try it if you want to, but it's not going to happen. I love that. Thank you so much. Oh, this is beautiful.
I love this. I think somebody asked if you could repeat what you said about being wrapped in. Did you see that?
Yeah, I had messaged her because I was asking, like, what does she mean by wrapped in? I missed that part of that, whatever I said too. I'm sorry. Nicole, if you wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit on which portion that was.
You said you described yourself. You said something about your business and then you described yourself and then it went out on my connection.
Okay. I was saying that my business name, my brand is Gorgeous Chaos, and it's the beauty within the midst of. So I was saying that I'm like a glass case of all the beautiful emotions. And I was saying I'm just wrapped in all of that. Like, that is exactly who I am. Gorgeous chaos. The beauty within the midst of all things within life.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so the last 2 years, people keep saying 2020, and now we're about to go into 2022. But it's been a whirlwind. So the name of this meetup was Victory and Vision. And we want to be able to recount the victories that we've had, not only this past year, but even if you want to go within the last 2 years, and list in on a note of just gratitude and praise. And you can reshare that, because you can even use some of her promptings with breathe and the questions, but geared in the aspect of like, okay, what is something? So for example, bring out the greatness inside you. So what's something that you can give gratitude and praise for, where you were able to bring out the greatness inside of you? Or with T, take a risk. What's something that you feel victorious about? Some of you guys already shared it in your introduction. Feel free to reshare that you feel victorious about over the past year that you were able to do. Maybe it's I had twins. that is a victory to recount and to give God praise for. Evaluate quarterly. I think we can often kind of nitpick the things that didn't go well when evaluating, but also let's take some time to be able to think through, no, what are some victories that I can evaluate ending kind of this year? So feel free to just unmute yourself and share if any of that prompted anything.
And then just to piggyback off that, I would also think about it from a perspective of if you took any risks this year, if you stepped outside the box at all this year from what you consider your normal to be.
Okay,
That's
I
a
have to
victory
share.
also. Yes, go
I
ahead.
have to share, take a risk. Okay, so as I already said, I had twins this year, my first kids, and I kind of brushed over it really lightly when I said one of my words, but I went from an engineering job to business owner just in this year. And that was a huge risk, and I'm really proud of myself. And I feel like every single month God has provided miraculously. We took a big risk, and it was like, God was like, okay, you're walking on the water now, and I'm going to be there with you. And I'm just so grateful for that. And, being a new mom, I'm breastfeeding twins, and it's like, I didn't realize I could do that. Like, I actually was able to do it. I pump 9 times a day, about 40 hours a week. I pump just to get enough breast milk for them, 40 hours a week. Like, I feel like that's slaying it. And you started a new business and quit your job, and you're still providing for your family. And I just, when you said that about Risk Day, I was just like, this has been an amazing year. It's so funny, and I'm glad that you helping me see that this has been an amazing year. Why wasn't that one of my words?
It didn't need to be in that moment. That's the only reason why it wasn't. But it's good that you can identify that now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I talk about when I talk about that perspective shift. Because you can look at take the risk, and like Ryan said, you can look at evaluate quarterly and pick out all the negatives, but change the perspective. And what are the positives? What are the victories in every single thing on here? What is the victory? I know Miss Tamara, sorry if I said your name wrong, I really do apologize. But like Miss Tamara, with embracing the current journey, her words are, she's grieving. She's in a process of grieving. But even in that process of grieving, what is beautiful in that? What is the victory in that? Having time with family, being able to, I know when I went through a grieving process, for me, it was just being grateful for still having life. You know what I mean? And still being able to do more. So definitely always, it's easy for us to think about the negatives, but always think about the victories. Always shift your mind. You have to essentially, it's a rewiring of your brain, neurons and synapses, when you can literally shift your mind to think of the victories. So Michelle, I'm so excited for you because you're working 12 full-time jobs, just pumping alone. I'm like 40 hours. Jeez. So definitely congratulations to you taking the risk. of going from engineer employee to full on business owner this year. I like doing it, and a twin mom. And a wife, and a woman, and all the roles that we play, people. Oh, miraculous to me. So congratulations for your victories. Gigi, I'm reading your comment now, and that is so exciting too. And I'm so excited for you. What what do you feel like? This is kind of like that whole vision part. So sorry, I'm not jumping ahead. I promise. There's more to come with the vision portion. Um, but one thing that I would love to just get you to start thinking about now is, because you said you're honored to be entrusted with a kingdom building project. In that, because that is big, kingdom building project. I just love that. That sounds like a lot of responsibility to me, and I love that for you. One thing I want you to think about is how far in now do you feel like you're ready to take that? That's something I would love for you to think about. You don't have to answer it, just think about it. Anybody else want to share a victory of a risk? Stepping outside your normal?
I'll share. So it wasn't, oh, before I do that, let me plug Gigi's Devotional. So I had the chance to do Gigi's Devotional, well-fed resources, y'all, and it is absolutely worth like the time to dig in. Gigi's one of those people that's like a critical thinker and like an intellectual Christian. Like, you know how like, well, I'll speak for myself. Like I grew up a lot of my childhood experience in church was very emotional. So I wasn't challenged to like think critically about the word. And I will say Gigi's Devotional is one of those that challenges you to think critically. So if you get a chance, please do check it out. What was I going to say? Oh, outside of my comfort zone. So I'm really grateful to God for bringing things full circle this year. I will be celebrating 11 years of full-time entrepreneurship in January. And I'm excited about what God has done in 11 years. But I think I recently realized that so much of my life has been one-dimensional. Like all people in my circle know me as is Andrina, the business owner, Andrina, the entrepreneur, Andrina, this ambitious like Black woman. And so there have been certain prayers that I'm like, Lord, I want more. Like I want different levels of experiences that are outside of business. And the paradox is that in a time where it's like everything else was dying, literally, I felt like God breathed life into certain areas of my life that I thought were dead, outside of business. And so I'm in this place where I'm like enjoying the experience, like I'm enjoying God fulfilling promises that I thought he forgot. That's why when you asked the question, Dai, about like rate your year, I was like a 9 because I'm so accustomed to like struggle journey. Like I'm so accustomed to like struggle love and struggle business and struggle stuff. And it's like, I felt like this year, the Lord just really kind of just loved on me in my personal and in social areas. And so I didn't meet the financial goals. I didn't meet the stuff that I said, but other areas of my life are thriving. And I'm like super, super grateful to God because he's opened my eyes to see that you're more than a businesswoman. And I'm excited about that.
I love that so much. And thank you so much for sharing that, because one of the things I said earlier today is to identify yourself outside of your titles. So it's exciting that you've had that opportunity this year to really see outside of who you've been this whole time and how people know you. Me personally, I've gone through that same exact thing this year because everybody knows me as Day the hair colorist, Day the hairstylist, and I'm so much more than that. And it was very difficult for me early on this year because it's like, I'm so much more than that, people. Like, What don't y'all get? Like, how are y'all not seeing this? That I'm so much more than this. This is just a title. This is not encompassing of the person. So it's exciting to be able to embark on the person. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm so excited for you for that. I want to transition just a little bit. Sorry, it's so much happening in the chat. I got like ADD. I'd be like, wait, what? What's happening? Squirrel. Sorry. I just wanted to transition before we close out into the vision portion of tonight and what that looks like to have a vision and what it looks like to be able to create the vision. Most importantly, your vision does not come from yourself. Your vision comes directly from your source, which is God. And in order for us to understand what vision it is that He has for our life, we have to be in contact with Him. We have to have conversation with Him. We have to have intimacy with Him. A lot of people love to say, well, I know I can do this because God said, write the vision and make it plain. So this is what I want to do, and He's going to bless it. That's not what that scripture says. That scripture says, write the vision and make it plain. And as long as it is in accordance with the will that God has for your life, then in due time, it will come to pass. And for some reason, everybody misses everything past the comma. And, and when creating visions, the very first thing I would encourage all of you all to do is to get in an intimate space with God and ask Him to align your plans to His will. So then that way you can begin to plan and see more clearly. There's nothing wrong with wanting what we want. There's nothing wrong with, you know how we create vision boards and we put the G-Wagon, we put all the dollar bills, we put the beachfront house in Maui, and this is our vision and this is what we want, and we want to see these tangible things come to pass in our lives. The thing though, the trick is that is that what God said? Or is that what you said God said, so you think that's what God said? And we have to be okay when we're creating our ideas and our visions for our lives. The reason why it's so important to be in alignment with God, because what if God said He wants you in the Toyota Corolla and not the G-Wagon? Are you okay with that? Are you still going to follow through with what the plan is that He set in place for you? If He wants you in the apartment and not the beachfront house, are you still going to live your life in accordance to the will that He has set for you? A lot of the times we tell God what we want. And when He doesn't make it happen, we say, and I've heard this before because I host vision board events. They're called daydreams because my name's Day, Dream, Vision. But prior to COVID happening, I was hosting in-person daydream events where we vision board, but we do it from a godly perspective. So there's a lot of prayer, there's a lot of intimacy, there's a lot of intentionality behind creating these vision boards. And one thing I've heard through hosting these events is these vision boards aren't real. Like, I don't see the point in doing them because I'll put this stuff up here and then it doesn't happen. What we miss though, and the reason why it was so important for me to create daydreams is because we taken out the part where it says, as long as it is according to God's will. So Ryan and I have been talking. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this or not, but I'm gonna say it, and she could just like mute me if I'm not supposed to say it. But Ryan and I have been talking about doing a part 2 to tonight, in which we actually come together and create the visions on paper. The reason why it's so important for me to have this conversation now is because I encourage each one of you from now until that event to be in intimate connection with God. So then when we come together and have the event and we come together and put our visions on paper, like Rebecca says for us to do, we are doing it not from a space of ourselves, but we are doing it from a space outside of ourselves, in which God is doing it for us. Just like the prayer I gave at the beginning, where I said, God, use me as a vessel. Whatever you need to say through me, you say it. Same thing with the vision boards. Whatever God's desire is for our lives, allow us to put that on paper. Because that's the only way it's going to come to pass, as long as it's in alignment with Him. So that's the January special edition meetup, because next month we're getting together and we're creating vision boards in accordance to God's will for our lives for 2022. And I was in prayer, and I always ask, I told y'all I'm a word person. So I'm always asking for words for each season that I'm in my life. And at the end of October, God gave me 2 words for this last quarter of 2021. And those words were patience and preparation. He's going to do a lot for us next year. And when I say a lot, I'm talking about, I've already been told, downloaded, that the kingdom is going to explode in an exponential way next year. The only way it can happen, though, is if we are in intimate relationship with God, listening to His every word and doing what He says do. He don't want no talk back from us next year. So in order to get there, we need to know what we're doing. How are we going to know what we're doing? Like I said, for the rest of this month, we're going to be in an intimate relationship with God every single day, having conversations. Remember, breathe. The A is affirm God daily. Affirm just means to solidify, to guarantee. Guarantee Him your time every day for the rest of this year, so He can tell you what He needs from you. And then in January, we putting it on paper. And then we hanging it up. And then we're looking at it every day. And we're just patient. We're preparing by putting it down so we can see it every day. And then we're having patience as it comes to pass. And then it'll be a thing where you're just going to be sitting in August like, oh my gosh, I put that on my board. You're going to look at your board and be like, oh my gosh, I actually did that. And trust me, I'm a witness. I do vision boards often. And I promise I can look, and I journal a lot. I can go back and read stuff that I said that has happened. And it's like, oh my God, I appreciate you. You're so amazing. So yeah. So I'm so excited for what's to come.
So I'll just say this, Dai, and then I'll mute myself and sit back. But the word that's been resonating in my heart and spirit is acceleration. And so when you talk about like patience and preparation, it's like if you're not prepared for what's to come, it can easily be overwhelming next year. You know what I mean? Like if you are not prepared, it's going to come so fast that it'll be easy for some of us to squander it. The opportunity if we are not positioned right. So I received that word, and I will affirm that that's along the lines of what's been in my heart as well.
Yeah, and it's so great that you said that. I was just having that conversation with my sister the other day. I was telling her about how I was thrifting for like teacher clothes. And I was like, I wanted to start getting stuff now, because Holy Spirit told me to get prepared, because whatever's coming, it's going to, and I promise you, I just said this to her yesterday. I said, whatever is coming is going to come so fast that if I'm not already ready, I'm going to miss it again. And I can't afford to miss it again. So I definitely touch and agree with you, because it's happening. But we have to do our part, and we have to steward properly.
Wow.
This is wonderful.
I feel like the Lord's been giving me just kind of a lot more understanding. Sometimes I think I've stepped out in stuff just because he said so. But, even in doing it, it's like, okay, whatever, this still don't make no sense to me, but okay, we're doing this, and I don't tend to have a problem being a risk taker. As long as I know that the Lord said it, then I'm like, okay, it might look all kind of crazy, but all right, we're doing this. But what he has had me do is recently, the last few months, is also now trying to give me some understanding. He's giving me some more backdrop about why he's been having me do what he's been having me do. And he's taken me through some pretty intense preparation seasons before this. At one point, I won't go into all the history, but he told me I was in the dark room. And he said that, and I've developed photography and stuff like that. So I totally understood where he was coming from. And he said that I've got you in the dark room. Don't worry about it. He said, because and it made me think about what Andrea was just saying. He said that if you come out of the dark room prematurely, that exposure will destroy you. And I was like, all right, then let me just sit here and whatever chemical I'm in. I don't know if I'm in chemical 5 or number 9, but we just gonna sit here and wait for him to do what he got to do, but there's also a security in that. It's like, okay, I can trust you. You know what you're doing. You got this. All right. I don't see it all, but I ain't trying to jump out there ahead of you, though. That's for doggone Skippy. So I really appreciate what the period that I'm in now. So I appreciate it. My job, I also have a day job, and it's closing down next week. So I have some materials to read to get this understanding about this preparation. So thank you. Thank you for affirming that, confirming.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing. That's so exciting. And yeah, that dark place, woo, it's like, why am I here? Still. But then it's like, I like it. It's fun. It's cozy. So I thank you. I definitely relate. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much, Dai. This was so helpful to have a time just to be able to come together as a community. And thank you, everybody, for all of your vulnerability and even sharing how you even rated your years, or the words that you would give your past year, or the 3 words you would give your past year, and even just sharing just what's on your heart. We look forward to the special edition virtual vision board party next month. I know for me, I love doing vision boards, but it's also a very vulnerable thing. And even if I do create one, then I want to be like, I don't want to show anybody, because it shows some of like the deepest desires and prayers that I have before God. But then it also exposes me to showing the disappointment on the aspect of like, I had this one on there, but maybe that was too much, or that didn't work out. So I love that you pointed out that a huge aspect of creating it from a Christian lens is the preparation even before it. And then we'll be prepared whether or not that's something that's in God's will or not. And it's the surrendering aspect. And I just love that. And I think we love to say here at McQuinn that we do things differently. And that's one of the things, like, we're all not just business women and business owners here. And in the beginning, we shared so much about that. But we're closing talking about, okay, how are we going to make this happen, though, with God? And before we get together next month, like, the biggest call was not what your numbers are going to look like or how many contacts you're going to get. It's like, okay, how are we going to connect ourselves to the source and be plugged into the source of the vision? And